This day in time. What happened today, years ago?
You know, it's amazing sometimes when you look at just one date on the calendar, how it can hold these moments that feel worlds apart, different times, different places, but somehow they echo each other. Themes like sacrifice, discovery, struggle.
Right. And today we're doing a deep dive into exactly that, focusing on one specific date. June 3rd. We've got this collection of source material, historical accounts, notes, articles, all pointing to things that happened on this day.
Across different centuries, different contexts. So our mission today is to explore these snapshots the material gives us, understand the events, sure, but also see if we can find those connections, those echoes about the human experience.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got three really distinct moments lined up for you from the sources. One's about war, a heavy one. Another is pure scientific exploration. And the third, well, that's about a fight for freedom. All June 3rd.
Quite a range for a single day. Okay, so let's jump in. Where do the sources take us first?
Back in time, right? Way back. June 3rd, 1864. We're in the thick of the American Civil War. The place is Cold Harbor, Virginia. This is during General Grant's Overland Campaign.
Grant pushing hard against Lee, trying to end it.
That's the picture the sources paint. Grant's goal was pretty clear. Engage Lee's army, beat it, and then capture Richmond, the Confederate capital.
Okay, so what happens on June 3rd specifically? The sources highlight this day.
They do. Grant ordered a direct assault, a frontal attack on the Confederate lines. And those lines were heavily fortified, dug in deep.
Oh, that sounds risky. Direct assaults often work.
Extremely.
Yeah.
And the accounts here are, well, they're grim. The material states that in less than an hour, just think about that, less than an hour that morning, thousands of Union soldiers went down. They didn't gain any significant ground. It was a slaughter.
Wow. Less than an hour. Do the sources give numbers?
They do. And they're horrifying. For the Union, 7,000 casualties, dead and wounded in just those few hours of fighting around the main assault. The Confederates had losses too, the sources note that, but the focus is really on the sheer scale and speed of the Union losses.
7,000. That's hard to even imagine in such a short time.
It is. And the sources mention the psychological toll even on Grant. He apparently later said he deeply regretted ordering that specific attack.
I can believe it. So how do the sources frame this battle, this moment, symbolically?
It's presented as a stark symbol of the brutality of war, almost its senselessness, how lives can just be crushed in moments like a machine with little gain, the sheer waste.
Yeah, that speed and scale, it really hits home. This wasn't a long, drawn-out thing, but a sudden, devastating blow.
Exactly. And the sources using this specific short event to symbolize war's brutality tells you something about how shocking it must have been, that concentration of loss. It's profound.
Okay, let's shift gears completely. That's a heavy image to start with. Our next June 3rd event, the sources take us forward in time, right? And somewhere totally different.
Totally different. We jump to June 3rd, 1948. Palomar Mountain, California. A very different kind of dedication is happening, not about war, but about opening a window to the universe. The Hale Telescope.
The Hale Telescope, named after George Ellery Hale, the astronomer. The sources mention him as the driving force.
Absolutely. He championed it for years. A real visionary, according to the material we have, pushing the limits.
And at the time, this was huge, right? The biggest telescope in the world.
By far, yes. The sources really emphasize that. It was the largest optical telescope anywhere when it was dedicated.
What about the specifics? I remember reading something, the mirror.
Yes, the sources detail that. A massive 200-inch mirror that's over 5 meters across. And they make a point of saying it was made from Pyrex.
Pyrex, like baking dishes. Why Pyrex?
Yeah, same material, different scale. The sources explain it's because Pyrex has low thermal expansion. It doesn't change shape much with temperature swings, which is critical, for keeping that perfect curve needed for sharp images of distant stars.
Right, makes sense. And building this thing must have been a massive project.
Monumental. The sources describe it as this incredible feat of science, engineering, craftsmanship. It took over a decade. Hundreds of people involved, scientists, engineers, skilled workers.
And the payoff, what did it... Let us see. The sources must cover its impact.
Oh, definitely. They say it kicked off a whole new era in astronomy, revolutionized it, really. The material credits it with key discoveries, like helping confirm the expansion of the universe.
Wow.
And discovering quasars. The sources describe these as like the brightest and most distant things known back then. Plus just getting much deeper insights into how stars live, die, evolve. The big picture stuff.
So the symbolism here, it's the total opposite of Cold Harbor.
Completely. The sources present it not just as a tool, but as a symbol of human curiosity, exploration, that desire to push boundaries, to see what's out there, to touch the unknown. A dream of reaching the cosmos made real.
It really is a stark contrast, isn't it? Same date, June 3rd, one event, swift, brutal mass destruction driven by conflict. The other, a long, collaborative effort driven by curiosity, opening up the universe.
Quite the juxtaposition. Makes you think about the different paths human effort can take.
Okay, so we have war, we have science. What's the third June 3rd moment our sources bring us to? Another shift, I imagine.
Another big shift. We move forward again to June 3rd, 1989, and the focus now is political struggle, human rights. The setting is Beijing, China.
1989, Tiananmen Square.
Exactly. The sources describe the atmosphere around Tiananmen Square on that day, June 3rd, as incredibly tense, heavy, oppressive even.
What led up to that point? The sources must give context.
They do. For weeks, tens of thousands of people, students mostly, but also other citizens, had been gathered there, protesting peaceful, the sources say, calling for big changes.
Like what were the demands?
Things like political reform, freedom of speech, an end to government corruption, more transparency, fundamental stuff.
So there was hope for change initially.
There was hope, yes. But the sources describe how that turned to fear. The government declared martial law, and then the military started moving into Beijing.
Yeah.
Tanks, soldiers, armed with lethal weapons.
And June 3rd. This was the night things turned violent.
According to the material we have, yes. The night of June 3rd, bleeding into the early morning of June 4th. That's when the sources say the first shots were fired. Soldiers opening fire on protesters.
Unarmed protesters.
Unarmed protesters, yes, that's what the sources state explicitly. The descriptions are chaotic, terrifying, screaming, tanks. The sources depict a scene of intense violence, turning the square into, as one account puts it, a sea of blood.
God, the casualties. Do the sources say how many?
That's a difficult point. The material notes the official death toll is still unknown, it's disputed, but it mentions that international organizations estimate the number could be very high, potentially up to thousands.
And the world's reaction.
Shock. Widespread international condemnation of the crackdown, according to the sources.
How do the sources we have frame the symbolism of this June 3rd event?
It's presented as, well, as an unhealed wound in China's recent history, a symbol of that clash between people's aspirations for freedom, for a voice, and the force of absolute state power. Now, it's important we state we're reporting what's in these source materials. They detail the protests, the government's response, the violence, and how they interpret the symbolism. It's one perspective on a very complex and sensitive event.
Right. Understanding how sources frame these things is part of the process. So, okay. Wow. 3 events on one day. June 3rd, 1864, the Battle of Cold Harbor, brutal cost of war. June 3rd, 1948, the Hale Telescope dedication. Reaching for the Stars, June 3rd, 1989, the eve of the Tiananmen crackdown, the struggle for freedom.
3 incredibly different moments, different centuries, different goals, different outcomes, but as the sources seem to suggest, maybe not entirely disconnected in terms of the underlying human element.
These echoes you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, echoes of sacrifice, certainly. But also that drive to discover, to understand our place, and that powerful, persistent desire for a better world, for freedom, for justice, even when it's met with force.
It definitely reinforces that history isn't just dates and names. It's woven from these deeply human stories. People living, fighting, searching, hoping, sometimes suffering terribly, sometimes achieving amazing things.
Absolutely. And looking at them together on this one date, June 3rd, the battlefield, the observatory, the protest square, it kind of forces you to confront these fundamental aspects of the human condition all at once. Conflict, curiosity, the fight for rights.
It really does. It shows how complex we are, how much can happen, how much can be felt and fought for, all converging in a way on a single point in the calendar.
So maybe the final thought for you listening is this. Considering these 3 starkly different snapshots from June 3rd, the terrible price of war, the incredible leap of scientific discovery, the violent crushing of calls for freedom, what does bundling these kinds of profound human experiences onto one date tell us about the enduring nature of our struggles, our progress, our ongoing search for something better? What echoes from these paths do you hear around us now?
Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more history daily.